All right, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the More Smarter Show with your host, Dylan and Jake. Jake, what do we got on the agenda today?
I'm very excited for today's guest. We have my friend David Beattie, the owner and operator of David Ryan Roofing, which is a North Jersey roofing company. And David's a little different than most roofers, so we're going to get into his story. He'll tell us about himself and where he started, where he is today, and then maybe future plans as well. Dave, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Jake. And Dylan.
You got it.
Yeah, so you guys wanted to hear about how I got started.
Yeah, because I know like when you were a teenager, you were doing roofing, which most teenagers don't have that background. So, so why don't you start there?
Yeah, so my father and uncle started a business in the 80s. And so when I was real young, like 15, 16 years old, they would drop me off at a job site. I'd do like garbage, stuff like that, just the grunt work. Make sure I don't step on any nails kind of thing.
All the shit they didn't want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That nobody wants to do,
Yeah.
realistically.
Yeah.
Okay. So you were a teenager doing the grunt work, and you developed into all-pro roofer, or what? How did that happen?
Yeah, so honestly, like as a kid, it was just more like summer work, and it was not anything that when we're kids, we don't really all know what we want to do. So it was just something that makes some extra side money, honestly. And it kind of, it took a lot of time, but by the time I was like, I would say around like 21, I started taking it more seriously. I was working like summers when I was 15, 16 years old, and then I became full time around like 18 years old.
Nice.
And yeah, just started getting more into it. And for me, it was like my mindset's always been a growth mindset.
Yeah.
As far as like not about being right, but like learning quickly and learning the right things and how to do things correctly. Whether that be from like the roofing technical aspect or siding technical aspect. I also did a lot of specialty roofing, like slate and stuff like that, copper. So it's really interesting stuff, or at least I found it interesting, and I just kind of went down the wormhole of trying to attain more knowledge and get better. So.
Yeah. That's awesome. So you started at 18, which means you, right out of high school, you didn't go to college, you didn't do the traditional route. What was the thought process behind that?
Interestingly, I did go to college, so I was working full time and taking classes full time for
Hmm.
like a while, and that was like really rough. And a lot of people assume like when you work for your father, like nepotism, and you have it easy, like this that, and the other thing. Like no, if anything, I worked 10 times harder to prove myself to him and the guys working there because roofing and siding, when you work with some of those guys, like they've been doing it their whole lives too. There's really like an ego thing there, and if you're not a hard worker, like you're gonna you're gonna hear it. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, it was really tough, honestly. Going to school full time and working full time. I went to school for business finance and accounting
Nice.
at William Patterson actually, and I didn't graduate, so I did drop out. I did like 2 years,
Hmm.
and then just wound up pursuing it full time. That's when I was about 21, and at that point, I kind of started getting more serious about it and was getting more towards like general management kind of position within my father's company.
Okay, so your father was the original owner of your company now.
No,
Which
so it's a separate
okay.
company.
Okay.
It's just the company that I was working with for him. It was Bay Roofing and Construction. Um, and yeah, so totally separate from my company. But that's what kind of gave me a foot in the door of this industry and where I
Yeah.
learned a lot of what I learned along the way.
Hmm. So when you made that decision though, and you did change to being full time now instead of going to school, what was the thought process behind that though? It's like, all right, now you're fully not going in the business or college traditional route, and now you're going full time in there. Was the thought process like, I'm going to be an owner in this business one day, or was it, this is what I kind of like to do right now, and I don't really want to go to school?
Yeah, no, 100%. I always had that business ownership mindset. I didn't know like what I was gonna do as far as business ownership or being an entrepreneur, but I definitely always had that kind of fire in me for doing that. So that's kind of where the seed was planted at that turning point. That's kind of when uh, I started stepping to the next phase of like you know attaining the knowledge to be able to run my own company, essentially.
So you're out of high school slash college, and you're working with your dad's company. So what happened between the years of working with your dad's company to now, where you have your own company?
Yeah. So yeah, like I said, it was around 18 when I went full time. 21 by the time I started taking it real serious, and it was probably around like 25. I was about 25 years old. Um, I was like the GM kind of role there, and then they got they got approached to be acquired by another company, and I can't talk too much about any of that really in detail. But yeah, basically they were approached, and they got bought out. So I realized that it was kind of a good opportunity for me to start my own thing and kind of push me uh, in the direction of starting my own thing.
So
Nice.
you were 25 at the time, then now you're off on your own, you're doing your own thing. Are you strictly a solopreneur, or are you immediate like, yo, guys who are working for my dad, come over here, work with me now, or what was kind of that
No,
like?
yeah. So I wasn't. I'm not like poaching any of the guys or anything like that for sure.
Nah, full poach, full
um,
poach.
no, yeah. I literally have like had like contracts about all that stuff, so
Mm,
couldn't do any of that. But I had worked with other people, so there was an interim period where I had to go off and work for another company for a little while. It was like a year, a little over a year. Um, and so I had exposure to a lot of different crews and guys, and at that point in time, I knew like what's the right way to do things. Again, that growth mindset, just always trying to further my knowledge base. And like roofing and siding is not exactly rocket science, but if you do things improperly, like it's going to severely affect the quality of the installation, the quality of the outcome, and to that matter, like how you operate and how you do the processes as far as your customer's experience, which is something that I take very seriously about how a customer is treated. I've seen it from, my father's company was more of a mom and pop kind of thing. And then I've been in the corporate world of exterior remodeling, and I've seen how they view customers in different ways. And so I've kind of tried to learn the lessons there as far as the right approach and just being human to human experience, just making people have a great experience, the 5-star experience.
Totally. And I can attest because I've worked with you in the past that it is a 5-star experience. So you're in your 20s and your dad's company gets sold that you're working for. Then you kind of then you kind of work for another company for a bit and then start your own. So I want to go back to that sale of your dad's company without talking too much detail, of course. Did you learn a lot about like what makes a sellable company? Because I can imagine a lot of roofing companies can be acquired or eaten up, but not necessarily sold for what they're actually worth. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's a great point. And to that point, like kind of putting the processes and operations into play, like, uh, yes, I did get a lot of insight as far as, what specific processes and procedures and documentation make it easier for someone to just see the value within something
Yeah.
instead of it being just kind of a jumbled mess, which honestly, like, a lot of it was. It was a
Yeah.
small mom and pop shop started in the 80s. Like they were faxing work orders and stuff. It was like very old school. Um, so yeah, to your point, I did see that, and also like I've always been into the self-improvement kind of self-help business books and stuff like that. So I had been reading books like Good to Great, Jim Collins, you know, Extreme Ownership,
Mm-hmm.
a handful of different kind of process-oriented books and stuff like that. So I got a good idea of how to do that, and to that point, I started implementing those things kind of right away within my own operations. Because yeah, I am a solopreneur. I still am. I have teams that I work with who are the best in the industry, and that's why I work with them, because I've been exposed to so many teams over the years, and I know what to look for. I manage everything from sitting down with the homeowner to the installation, like I'm there. So, and that's something that's also really rare with bigger companies, and it makes sense
Yep.
from a procedural standpoint. You can only, tune your processes so much when that's what it is, because in a way I'm my own bottleneck, but that's okay for me. Like I'm not trying to get to the point where I can't directly oversee my projects, because then I'd have to compromise on quality, and I'm not going to make that compromise, frankly. So.
Interesting.
So where did you come up with the how many jobs you can kind of handle at once then? If you are managing everything, is it like, all right, I can only handle 5 jobs a week, and because of, like, I can only be in so many different places to manage
Yeah, at this
control?
point, yeah, at this point there is like a hard set limit, and I know pretty much what that looks like, just from my experience of pretty much doing it. Because I was managing all the projects, even with my father, working with my father, I was managing all the different projects. So, I mean, realistically, um, you can manage quite a lot single-handedly, especially the way that I'm trying to do it is I've built out my processes to be not so much for like other people, but processes for myself to run things more smoothly. Um, so I created like a CRM that kind of tells me where everything is within the pipeline of operations. So I know where everything's at, and I have a really good grasp on everything. Even though I am running so many different things, it's not like overwhelming for me. So I just make my life easier through the systems and operations.
So, can you talk more about those systems? Because I have used you, and so I have used you, but also my management company has used you, and I know that those, I guess they're mutual clients of ours, are very happy with you all the time. So, how do you do that? Keep everyone happy and do such a nice job, but also take in an inbound lead. You might have to put out a fire in one other place. Like, how do you balance that? I want to hear your systems.
Communication, first of all, just honest communication. Just tell people, uh, have a good idea of where you're at, because you know exactly what your schedule looks like. Which I do. Like I'll set myself appointments. It's all blocked out, like spaces in my calendar. So I know exactly what my deliverables are. I make rolling to do lists. I'm big on writing things down. I carry a notebook with me everywhere. Um, the CRM has different, you know, job statuses. It has customer information. It has everything down to like if I filed a warranty for their project, stuff like that. And it's actually so I made it out of with Google Sheets. I have a bunch of drop downs for different columns. I have sort of like payment invoicing sort of stuff in there, like totals, amounts paid, like invoices.
So, are you doing that yourself, or is your
Yeah,
assistant doing that? You're doing
no,
Hmm.
I'm
that.
doing it all manually, but I've also implemented like automations within the sheets.
Got you.
So if I have a roofing, let's say a roofing project, for instance, once I set that to like contract signed status within the lead status itself, it triggers other automations. So like it'll say that there's a work order that's needed, a material order that's needed, a dumpster order that's needed, if the job type is selected to be a whole house roof. So there's categories for all the job types, like everything you could think of that you could possibly want to know as an exterior services company.
Yeah.
I have it all there, and it's like very smartly automated, so that it kind of keeps me on track with as minimal input as possible. Like it's still more. I still have to manually do more input because just to have that kind of data and that kind of system, it's inherently you have to do that. But
Yeah.
it's been very helpful to keep me on track.
Yeah, wow. So when you do those automations, do they go kind of just directly to you as a reminder, or would they go to the customer or subcontractor to actually get the ball rolling on the job?
No, so yeah, that's a good question. None of that is automated as far as any of that. I'm sure I will get to the point where I will need to do that. That's probably in like the next steps kind of format, or I might have to go to an official CRM thing. It's just kind of something uh, I was doing in house to keep myself lean and just make my processes more traceable, more data oriented, um, and just easier for being a solopreneur. Really.
Yeah. I was about to say, honestly, for anyone who's a solopreneur, the Google Sheet CRM is probably the most affordable CRM you can find, right? Like that's a really smart idea. I didn't even, I know people are super crazy with, like I have a couple friends in finance and they're like crazy with Excel and you don't even need to touch your mouse and all that sort of stuff, like creating automations. So I knew it was possible, but I didn't honestly even think about doing it for something like running a business like you are. So that's awesome.
So what do you think? Like, what do you think your 3 5 year goal is? Is it to conquer roofing world or what?
That's a great question. Honestly, for me, like whatever it is, I want it to be oriented around the customer's experience. First and foremost, I've seen, where revenue drives everything. And you need to make revenue, obviously, but like, it's not everything to me. I like giving people a great experience. So it would definitely be something aligned with that value as a core. But if I got that value orientation correct, I would like to do maybe something where, like something I would have liked to have myself in the industry, if there was an option for people to kind of come into the system and work as like, let's say you're the kind of grunt man, like a project assistant for a while,
Mm-hmm.
and then you make your way up the ranks and you get like kind of a share of the whole. So sort of like like a employee owned franchise kind of thing, or employee operated franchise kind of a thing. I've been going down that kind of route to see where that might lead, and just giving people an opportunity to grow
So like
with that
train a
growth
future
mindset and
Dave.
the right values.
Yeah. So you would train a future Dave and eventually potentially hand it off.
Right, like a GM that would
Yeah, GM,
basically
exactly.
own and operate their own branch. But that's like way down the road kind of thing. Yeah, not even.
But I guess my question to you, because Dylan and I talk about this off topic, off
All the time.
camera all the time, of like this type of subject. Like, how do you know it's time to do that?
Yeah.
It's a great question. Um, hmm. Honestly, I don't even know if I have an answer for you.
And I don't think anyone does.
No one
But
does. Yeah.
it's the chicken or the egg. Like, you don't want to get too busy where you can't even have focus on training this important person, but you also don't want to pay that important person a good salary they
Too early.
deserve before you have the leads coming in.
Yeah,
Right?
the way I've been kind of theoretically thinking about it is getting to specific like monthly revenue targets, and then doing like percentages, like a pool that kind of accrues, and then it's based off of like performance and value driven aspects of like quarterly reviews, or monthly, at that point monthly reviews. Like if you
Yeah.
you can qualify for X percentage of that pool, if you hit these metrics, and they're not just revenue driven again, because that's not really my overall goal. They're more like personally driven, like growth oriented. Like how are you developing as a leader? Um,
Hmm.
you know, to
Hmm.
potentially teach those underneath you, and get them on the right path, and give them an option, or the optionality of making more by being just owning more of the process.
Yeah. My brain is just going a ton of directions. But Dylan, go ahead.
I know, mine too. So I'm gonna pick a direction and kind of run with it.
Yeah.
When you when you're looking at having that sort of growth and hiring on some people, obviously the leads are very important. You know, getting more jobs. When you're recruiting those, when you're getting those leads coming in, and I'm a someone who's asking to get that roof done, and you're saying you're focusing on customer experience, and that's like the main thing kind of for you. What is it like as me hiring you? What is like the process? Because I know my dad is in the blue collar field, right? And he doesn't have any of these kind of systems locked in where an automatic text message or email goes out saying, "Hey, it was great meeting you. Look forward to working on your roof at X date." It's just kind of like show up, do the thing, get a check, go. And there's no like recurring marketing afterwards or anything like that. So what does the customer experience look like? That's kind of question number one. And then question number two, how do you continue to be like their go-to roofer?
Yeah.
Yeah, so great questions. Roofing is something that, unless you do like some kind of recurring services, like gutter cleaning or something like that, it's not really something that people come back to you for generally, unless you're like a property management company like yourselves, or something like that. Yeah, it's generally something that's kind of one off. So to your point, leads are important. So you have to have some kind of marketing in place, or some kind of competitive advantage in place for you to just naturally kind of get those leads. Word of mouth referral is huge for me. It's like a majority of where I get my leads. Basically all of them, essentially. I do some Facebook advertising, which also helps. But yeah, so as far as to answer your question about the customer experience and how you kind of connect those pieces into it as well. Honestly, it's really simple stuff. It's just being a good person, standing behind your work, being communicative. I'll follow up with people who I did installs for or repairs for. They had a leak. I'll follow up with them and say, hey, I'll check in after a big rainstorm. I know you guys have talked about this before, scheduling text messages.
Yep.
Yeah, I schedule text messages sometimes. Stuff
Nothing
like
wrong
that.
with that.
Just
Yeah.
follow back up. Like, just ask people, hey, did we get to the bottom of it? Like, I hope you're all dry. Stuff like that. And then I would want to know if I didn't, frankly, because that's my reputation on the line as well. Like, if I don't fix it, then that's a
So
problem.
I love that, but I'm going to put some pushback to you. There becomes a point where that's impossible, right? Like, I, as a realtor, for example, when I was self-proclaimed also the guy that was able to check in, to give comps to past clients, and to say how much your home is worth 5 years later, things like that. If you, though, do it all yourself, it becomes impossible. If you have systems, which your automations are, your CRMs
Right.
are, and people, though, there comes a point where you need people.
Sure,
and,
absolutely.
And by people, I might mean robots in the near future, but something of the sort, because we can only handle so much as
Absolutely.
humans. Yeah.
No, absolutely. Yeah, it's exactly what you said. You literally just create a process then at that point to do that system, or have people that do that, but make it part of the process, make it part of the operational protocol, the standard operating procedures of
Yes.
whatever role. And
Yeah,
with the data, you need to collect the data and have information to make your decisions off of. Like, X amount of time after you complete an installation, then an automated text goes out, or then this, kind of like if-then logical
Right.
derivatives.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's kind of unheard of though in the blue collar world, I feel like not many people do that. So
Dude, I'll step in for you, Dave. There's been some unheard of things that Dave has done for me and my clients, or my customers for property management. in the home services industry, you don't get compliments like the way Dave has had. Through like I'm the third party there. Like
Is
they
it
tell
just
me
complimenting his dope beard, or is it
it
is
was
it
mostly about his
worth
beard.
it?
Mostly, yeah, mostly about his beard. But like
Thank you.
honestly, sometimes the standard is so low. If you show up on time, you're better than 80% of other roofers.
Yeah,
Yeah,
honestly, that's not false. But then you
Yeah,
can really then in there lies a huge opportunity to absolutely grand slam it out of the park. You know,
it does. It does because you're
show up
starting on
on
the right.
time, communicate
Yeah,
that you're going to be there. If you're running a little late, just let them know. Like just simple things, like basic courtesies that you and I would want.
yeah,
correct. But again, back to my last objection, there comes a point where that could be extremely difficult. If you
Could
have
be
10 new
extremely difficult,
leads,
but
yeah,
not impossible.
not impossible. Maybe there's a point it could be impossible though. If your Facebook ads are blowing up to millions of people seeing it, millions of people at the same time need a new roof in New Jersey, that would be impossible. Is that likely? No, but we do talk about on the More Smarter show being prepared for the best storm like that, right?
Right,
So that
right.
yeah, so it's something to be mindful of for sure.
No, 100%,
Yeah,
absolutely.
So one thing that I know, just being also a son of someone who works in the blue collar industry, is that there are a lot. If we're talking about the category of price gouging or competition, home services is one of the most competitive. Like automatically, you're gonna get five. If someone needs a new roof, I know Jake did this exact same thing. If someone needs a new roof, they're gonna get like three or five different quotes from three or five different companies. So it's always going to happen. So how do you kind of stand out against competition? Obviously, it's the communication that you have, which is great, and the kind of it seems like you're very attentive too with carrying around a notebook. I feel like people would appreciate that. So what are some other things that you've kind of done in the past to make yourself stand out when it's so competitive?
Um, that's a great question. I think I'm not. I've seen it from the corporate aspect of like a hard sales kind of thing where they show up to your house with like an iPad and they, sit you down, and sometimes some people love that. To be fair, some people really love all the information that you can deliver to them. But being realistic about my own time, I don't have necessarily an hour or two to sit down with every person and go over everything. So I just make really detailed proposals of what I'm going to do, and I use top quality components. Um, I don't compromise the system of what I install, um, and I just try to be as genuine as possible, just like human to human connection, make a connection with someone,
Hmm. Yeah, I bet. I mean, I bet that's
and stand
really
behind it. Ultimately,
totally, totally. And I mean, that's obviously super big on landing jobs. Now, if we're looking at like the metrics behind that, then do you have any sort of idea of, all right, if I'm going to go on five estimates a week or whatever, 10 estimates a month, I know I'm going to land on average 30% of them, and that's going to be X amount. And I mean, this is a big topic when you're thinking about hiring someone too, where it's, all right, where do I want these to be, or where do I need these to be in order to make that hire, like you were saying before. So where are they at right now? And going back to our another question, where in 3 years, where do they need to be in order to grow this business?
yeah. So that's also a great question. You so you can only what's the term? You fall back
To
to
your
the basics
systems,
of your process
from the
essentially.
process. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I have a lot of information about every lead, and that includes what percentage sells and what doesn't. So I know approximately where I fall. And granted, that fluctuates a lot in different times, but like I always have that information. Um, and I've actually made like pricing templates the same way through Google Sheets. I've created different kinds of processes to kind of help me make the most out of every situation. And I'll have to make processes when I employ people inevitably as well for them to operate with that same level. But I have to understand that I mean, as a business owner, nobody's going to come in and do give it 100% of what you're giving it. You kind of have to be happy with like 85%. Sometimes even less. You just have to be happy with it. So I'm sure I'll get information on that and adjust the metrics to reflect.
Nice.
You know, just more information and processing it the correct way.
Do you ever look at your profit margins and think about other ways to create to increase them?
That's a good question. I just focus on. I'm more focused on delivering the kind of experiences for my customers that lead to more jobs right now. But I'm sure there's ways I could maximize profit margins and stuff like that. But when I get a customer, I kind of see them as that's valuable to me because they're my client now, and I want to give them a great experience. So I don't advertise this, but I don't nickel and dime people on like the extras of the project and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I try to give people the best bang for their buck and make them feel like they got a ton of value from having me there and taking care of their house like it's my own house, frankly.
Yeah, because the position I'm in, my property management company, there's 4 owners, right? I'm one of 4. So there's pros and cons to that, of course, but one of the pros is that we talk about this stuff weekly, every Thursday at 4. We talk about our profit margins, we talk about ways to increase revenue, marketing, bigger picture branding type things. And it's actually an amazing experience, but also actually it moves the needle for us. And like where we trim fat in ways that I didn't even think of because someone else did. So I just wonder, I mean, as a solo owner, I could see that being a challenge. Obviously there's other pros, but I'm wondering if that's something you could think of for the future.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's inevitably something that will be thought about.
Which leads me to ask, like, are you looking for a partner? Because, I mean, listen, I told Dylan this yesterday. I wrote, I heard this on a podcast and I did it myself. And I wrote like a 3 years into the future, a news article, a fake one about myself. And it was September 30th, 2025. It was written, so in September 30th, 2028. And it was like, Jake does this, Jake does that. And one of the things that I wrote about myself is that I have ownership in a home service business. I'm not pitching myself to you, but just hear me out. Because I am looking for that type of opportunity where I'm right. 50% or so partner, and in a way where someone who might be maybe in your dad's position more, who was like, I'm assuming if the company was in the 80s, there was a lot of just receipts everywhere. Something like that, who needed the systems that you're already good at, most of them here, but that's where I would fill in.
Right.
And so I just like talking to people like you and asking you questions because it's going to be something that it's going to be in my future. If I write it down, it happens.
Yeah, I would say there's a huge opportunity there as far as like there's a lot of older people in the home services industry in general, and there's not a lot of people that, at least from what I'm seeing, that are interested in going into home services or anything like that at a younger age. So, there's a kind of like a need for that in a lot of different departments and a lot of like older businesses.
And it's my personal value add is strictly the business component, and it's knowing nothing about roofing. Like, I think that is actually a benefit to what in this position could be a value add to someone like you, of it's strictly
100%.
Business, leads, and sales. Yeah.
Yeah, because I'll give you an example. Like when I was working for my father, I was that general manager role, and there was so much that I wanted to do, knowing what I know about business and processes. I wanted to do so many different things, but the clutter of the information being like literally receipts, like you said that as an example, it's 100% true. There was receipts rubber banded together in a filing cabinet, like just the manual load of having to go through those, and then you're just stuck in the system, like having to operate. I couldn't make any decisions that were like based on actual actionable information. So Yeah, to your point, I think that'd be a huge value add if somebody could even just understand um, where there is value within their system and where they
Yeah,
might be leaking certain resources would be a huge thing to know. And I think it's going to be more and more important in the industry as we move forward, especially with utilizing AI and different kind of systems. Like if newer businesses come on that are just leaner and know how to
exactly.
make better choices off that information, then that's huge.
Dylan, how'd I do on my pitch?
I think you could have. It's the first one I can tell. I can tell it was the first one.
It was the
This is
first
the
one.
first pitch you've done. I think there's some work that needs to be done, but
I agree.
no, I think that's something that is awesome, and I've seen. I think this is kind of very popular right now, and I don't know if it's just like social media or business, young business people talking, and they're it's just taking over the baby boomer businesses. There's a lot of money in these businesses that are simply just doing hundreds of thousands of dollars in revenue every year, all on the back of a napkin. And this is totally obviously is something that Dave you noticed in your dad's business, and it's something that obviously the whole buyout situation you still took somewhat advantage of, at least whether it was just the experience you gained working with them and
Right.
or whatever it was. So that's something that me and Jake talk about a lot. Another thing that we talk about a lot is something called 100 by 100. And as you mentioned before, you could offer a gutter clean out during the fall time or every quarter. Doesn't seem like you do that, right? You don't do that right now?
Not currently.
Okay,
Nope.
so right now you're sticking to the okay, let me break down the premise of what 100 by 100 is for you. So 100, it's doing 100 jobs for $100 equals $10,000, right? In comparison to doing a bigger job, like you're doing one roof, it's going to be $10,000 by one roof. So you're focusing on those big jobs and you're going to make $10,000 from it. But what we talk about is diversifying where you're making that money back, where you're getting those 100 by 100s or 10,000 by ones. So if one avenue of your business was doing the whole entire roof and that was 10,000 by one, it's obviously awesome. You're trying to shoot for those. But another avenue of your business, another branch could be that 100 by 100 of quarterly subscriptions of gutter cleanup or roof inspections prior to selling a house. Me and Jake are obviously both in real estate. Simple roof inspection that you go out, you charge the seller $500 just to make sure that the roof is in good order. You get a warranty or whatever. That happened on a
Right.
previous house I sold. So like that's something that's an avenue right there. So have you thought of kind of different outlets of how you can be generating more revenue or different pathways in this business?
Yeah, I definitely I have some in mind already. I'm just so early into it for myself right now. Um, that I just have to pick and choose uh, what I'm gonna focus my time on right now. Um, but I actually do roof inspection reports for real estate transactions,
Oh,
just so
let's
you know.
go.
Nice,
That's awesome.
nice.
Yeah.
So hit me up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Um, but as far as the gutter cleaning aspect, I mean, we did try to launch like a gutter cleaning department within, my father's company at the time, and talk about competitive, man. Some of those, I mean, you you know, trying to get it's a numbers game with gutter cleaning. You know who did it really really well was Ned Stevens. Those guys exploded, and it was actually an investment firm that I believe an investment firm went in there, acquired them, and then turned it into what it is today, which is huge. So, but
that's
yeah, it's a
right.
very competitive marketplace.
Yeah. Wow. But I mean, that's the thing though, is if you do their roof though, I feel like it's got to be like a ninety
Yeah, and
percent.
down the line, to your point, could definitely be like an add-on service kind of a thing for
Yeah.
sure.
Add-on
Yeah,
service, and then also yeah, just a simple implement, and you're there for forever.
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
It's just an upsell. Like you already have them. You already have the client's trust. So I know I would trust you to do gutters even if you told me you didn't do gutters. I'd be like, no, Dave, just figure it out. Like, just do gutters. Like that, because I know you, I would feel that way rather than calling a gutter person that I don't know.
Yeah.
So
No,
it's
100%.
definitely, it's definitely something that
Like
should
I
be
said, down
considered
the
as
road.
an example. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's why
definitely.
it's really nice to have you on here, because this is the More Smarter show, and we talk about not working more harder but working more smarter. But we always acknowledge that towards the beginning of a business, you have to work more harder. You are self-employed until you're a business owner. That's just the truth of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I spent a lot of my life working more harder, and yeah. At some point, there was a shift for me. Like, I, just to survive, like I had to be stoic about it. Kind of figure
Yeah.
out, like, well, why am I doing all this? For what reason? And then, that goes into like mindset of like
We all have
everything's a
those.
lesson. You're learning a lesson.
That's right. That's right.
I'm there and laying on my back in a driveway, blew out my back, and like I'm like, what's the lesson here? You know?
Yeah. I do the same things to myself.
Live with
Growth
your legs.
mindset. Yeah. No, that's right. And it's something like we're definitely gonna have you on again in the future as a guest to see where you may be working more smarter. I should say we working more smarter because we're gonna be business partners by then. But but like there's always, like, all of our past episodes we've had people talk about themselves, their experiences, and then we plan on in the future having the guest on as well to see where that's developed for sure.
Cool.
Dylan,
Yeah, yeah. Well, even before we close out, I kind of want to touch on the thing that you ended on there was what's the reason behind all this work, right? I know this is kind of a slippery slope conversation, and we could dive into purpose of life, which I'm not trying to get into right now. But when you do have that, and you're working more smarter as an entrepreneur or solopreneur or even self-employed salesman, whatever you want to call it, you are sacrificing a lot of time, and there's that whole entire conversation of is this worth it? So what was that? How has that conversation been with you now, being a full-time solopreneur? You're probably working a lot of hours. You're working really hard, and you got to not only probably get on top of a roof or manage people that are going up there and talking to customers, but then going back to your computer and doing all that work. So it's a lot of stuff. How do you manage kind of that feeling of being overwhelmed or burnt out, and what's the reason behind all this?
Well, I think it's like how you frame it. It's always been that way, at least for me. Like I've definitely given up a lot of from my free time to working, and I've made that choice a lot. And at one point, it was like, honestly, it was to prove something to my dad, like that. Hey, I am, look at me hustling. Like you know, I'm doing this. And at some point, it became like, well, that's actually the wrong mindset. Like I should be focusing on how, like, where is this taking me in the longer term? Like, what is my goal? And it's just to really get better, to improve myself and test myself and learn the lessons that I'm meant to learn. And just, I don't know, I'm a believer in, not to get theological on you, but like, I'm a believer in God. So I think, it's God's test to me to like where I'm going to go in my life and what's the next thing that I have to learn. So I'm always going to be thinking that way. I think that's healthy, to think that way, and it just leads you to better outcomes because you just learn more along the way. You get more smarter,
Nice.
and you go to better places through that, and then you don't have to work so hard. Is the goal. You always have to work hard, but
Yeah, you do. Just where you're allocating your hardness.
exactly.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this: how sellable is your business, 1 to 10 today?
At the moment,
Yep.
not very, because I am self-diagnosed as a bottleneck, but I have processes and I have SOPs designed for the future, and I know what it's gonna look like. So that's half the battle.
It is. It is. And there's, they say the bet on the jockey, not the horse. where you really bet on the horse in horse racing. I'm a gambler, but I guess what the point is that like the horse could break his leg, but the jockey will find another horse and
Yeah.
figure it out.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's developing the skill. I'm big on developing skills.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, we'll wrap it up, Dave. Thank you, Dave Beattie of David Ryan Roofing. Where can we find you on socials or websites, things like that?
Yeah, so you can find me on Facebook or Google, David Ryan Roofing and Exteriors.
Nice.
That's awesome. Dave, really appreciate it and appreciate your time. And guys, please like, comment, subscribe to the More Smarter Show.
Only if you like it.
Thank you, guys.